On the same quiet suburban street lived two neighbors who looked almost identical on paper. Mark and David were both hired by the same manufacturing company in 1998. Both earned around $58,000 a year. Both bought nearly identical three-bedroom homes within 6 months of each other. Their children played basketball in the same driveway. They grilled together on summer weekends. If you had walked through the neighborhood 25 years ago, you would have assumed their financial futures would be nearly identical. But they slowly began making different choices. Every 3 or 4 years, Mark upgraded his car. First the luxury sedan, then the sport utility vehicle, then the pickup truck with every available package. His vacations filled social media. Kitchen renovations arrived before the old kitchen had worn out. Promotions immediately became larger mortgages. Success, to Mark, was something other people needed to see. David was almost invisible. His driveway held the same 12-year-old sedan with over 180,000 miles. His house barely changed except for a new roof and better insulation. When bonuses came, nobody noticed. There were no flashy vacations, no expensive hobbies, no carefully curated photos proving life was getting better. Then both men turned 50. Mark's household had accumulated a net worth of just $83,000, carried more than $90,000 in consumer debt, and still depended entirely on his next paycheck. David had quietly built more than $400,000 in low-cost index funds, owned 2 mortgage-free rental properties worth nearly $600,000 combined, and could realistically choose whether he wanted to keep working at all. My name is Brian, and today I'm going to show you exactly why Generation X quietly won the money game while nobody was watching, and what any of us can take from their playbook regardless of our age. Before we go further, we need to understand the environment that shaped them. Generation X grew up during a strange financial era. They watched the 1987 stock market crash. They entered adulthood around the dot-com bubble. They saw mortgage lending explode during the early 2000s before witnessing the largest financial collapse since the Great Depression. Long before social media rewarded appearances, many of them learned about investing through library books, Warren Buffett's shareholder letters, early online forums, and patient conversations instead of endless algorithm-driven opinions. Knowledge came slowly, and because it came slowly, it tended to go deeper. That mattered enormously when fear arrived. During the financial crisis of 2008, the Standard & Poor's 500 index fell roughly 57% from its peak. Many investors panicked. Yet research from Vanguard and studies of long-term investor behavior consistently showed that investors who maintained disciplined contribution habits recovered far more successfully than those who sold into panic. The foundation was never predicting markets. The foundation was building enough understanding that temporary fear didn't become permanent damage. That mindset created the first lesson. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. Lesson 1. Most people think diversification begins inside an investment account. Generation X quietly treated their entire lives as diversified portfolios. Instead of relying on one employer, one paycheck, or one career path, many built layers of income that protected each other. A primary salary became the foundation, not the entire structure. A rental property produced monthly cash flow. Weekend consulting brought in additional income. Dividends accumulated quietly. Some started small service businesses. Others developed freelance skills that could be activated whenever necessary. Consider a realistic household. Sarah earns $85,000 working in healthcare. Her husband earns $78,000 as an engineer. On paper, they appear financially secure. But they also own a small duplex producing $1,400 each month after expenses. One spouse teaches an online certification course, earning another $600 monthly. Their investment portfolio generates modest quarterly dividends. If one paycheck disappears, nearly $2,000 of monthly income remains untouched while the job search begins. Compare that with another household earning the exact same combined salary of $163,000, but relying entirely on 2 full-time jobs. lose one position, and half the family's income disappears overnight. According to data from the United States Census Bureau and multiple workforce surveys, roughly one-third of Generation X workers report having more than one income source. That isn't because they were obsessed with working more hours forever. It was because they understood something many people discover only during a crisis. Redundancy creates resilience. Financially, the benefit is obvious. Psychologically, the effect is even bigger. People with multiple income streams negotiate differently. They leave toxic workplaces sooner. They take calculated career risks. They panic less because their survival no longer depends on a single decision made inside a corporate boardroom. The 2008 recession exposed this beautifully. While millions experienced layoffs, households with diversified income sources often had more flexibility. Some increased freelance work. Others leaned on rental income or small businesses while waiting for hiring to recover. Research examining unemployment patterns following the financial crisis showed that diversified household income frequently shortened the financial damage caused by job loss because every dollar no longer came from one fragile source. Generation X learned something simple. Your career is an asset, but it should never be your only one. That naturally leads to another habit almost nobody noticed. Lesson 2. Most people assume wealthy people spend money to prove they are successful. Many of the wealthiest Generation X households quietly did the opposite. They understood that every dollar spent on appearances was a dollar that could no longer compound. Imagine two families earning $150,000 annually. Family 1 leases 2 luxury vehicles for $1,700 each month. They replace perfectly functional furniture every few years. Vacations are financed because experiences cannot wait. Annual lifestyle spending quietly reaches an additional $25,000. Family 2 drives vehicles until maintenance costs truly outweigh replacement. They renovate only when necessary. Their vacations fit inside their savings plan. That same $25,000 gets invested every year instead. After 15 years, assuming a reasonable long-term annual return, the investing family has accumulated hundreds of thousands of dollars more, not because they earn dramatically higher salaries, but because they refuse to purchase social approval. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances has consistently shown that Generation X households accumulated significantly higher median net worth than younger generations at comparable stages of life. One major reason was not extraordinary investing skill. It was remarkably ordinary spending. Invisible spending decisions created visible financial freedom years later. There is another emotional layer here that often goes unnoticed. When you stop performing wealth, you stop competing with strangers. You no longer feel pressure every time someone buys a newer vehicle or posts another expensive vacation. Your financial decisions become internal instead of social. That freedom compounds just like money does. The housing crisis reinforced this lesson. When home values collapsed after 2008, many families discovered that impressive lifestyles built on debt disappeared almost overnight. Meanwhile, households that had quietly accumulated investment assets instead of status symbols entered the recovery with stronger balance sheets and greater flexibility. Generation X rarely looked richer than everyone else. They simply became richer than everyone else over time. And that happened because they viewed borrowing very differently. If this is shifting something in how you see money, take 2 seconds to hit the like button. It helps more people find these conversations, and I genuinely appreciate it. Lesson 3. Most people believe all debt is dangerous. Generation X often believed the opposite. Consumer debt was dangerous. Productive debt could be incredibly valuable. That distinction changed everything. Imagine 2 couples who each qualify to borrow $300,000 in 2010. The first couple finances luxury vehicles, remodels rooms they rarely use, carries credit card balances averaging $18,000, and upgrades their lifestyle every time interest rates make borrowing easier. 5 years later, almost every dollar they borrowed has disappeared into depreciating purchases. The second couple also borrows $300,000, but for a duplex purchased after housing prices collapsed. They make a substantial down payment, Choose a property where rental income covers the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and allow tenants to steadily pay down the loan. By 2024, the property has appreciated significantly, generated years of rental income, and built substantial equity, while consumer debt remains close to zero. The debt looked identical on the application forms. Its destination made all the difference. Federal Reserve household balance sheet data has repeatedly shown that appreciating assets like real estate account for a significant share of long-term household wealth, while revolving consumer debt is consistently associated with weaker financial outcomes. The debt itself was never the deciding factor. The asset behind the debt was. Emotionally, productive debt creates a completely different relationship with money. Instead of wondering how you will make the next payment on something losing value every day, you begin watching an asset slowly work on your behalf. That changes how you think about borrowing forever. History rewarded this mindset. Between 2009 and 2012, while many buyers were frozen by fear after the housing crash, experienced investors and financially prepared households stepped into deeply discounted real estate markets. Properties that once seemed unreachable suddenly became affordable. Those willing to buy carefully, with strong cash flow and long-time horizons, often benefited enormously during the decade that followed. Generation X did not avoid debt. They simply demanded that debt produce something in return. And perhaps their greatest advantage of all had nothing to do with borrowing. It had everything to do with patience. Lesson 4. Most people believe wealth is built through brilliant decisions. Generation X quietly proved that wealth is usually built through boring consistency. The greatest financial advantage they had was not finding the perfect investment. It was refusing to interrupt compounding. Imagine someone who began investing $500 every month in January of 1998 into a broadly diversified, low-cost index fund tracking the United States stock market. Over 26 years, they would have personally contributed approximately $156,000. Assuming returns close to the long-term historical performance of the market, that account would have grown to roughly $520,000 by 2024. Think about what that means. The market created nearly $364,000. Not through luck, not through trading, not through predicting recessions or elections. Through time. Vanguard's long-term investor research consistently shows that Generation X has one of the highest rates of continuous retirement contributions over decades. They kept buying through good years and bad years because they understood something the headlines never do. Markets move emotionally in the short term. They reward patience in the long term. The emotional payoff is impossible to overstate. When your investment system becomes automatic, your emotions become less important. You stop asking whether this month feels like the right time to invest. You simply continue, month after month, year after year. The habit becomes stronger than the headlines, and that habit survived every major test. The dot-com crash erased trillions of dollars in stock market value. The financial crisis of 2008 sent the Standard & Poor's 500 index down roughly 57% from its peak. During the COVID market decline in 2020, fear spread faster than the virus itself. Yet every one of those declines was eventually followed by recovery. Those who stopped contributing interrupted their own compounding. Those who kept investing bought more shares when prices were lower and participated fully in the recovery that followed. Generation X discovered that time is not simply another variable in investing. Time is the investment. Here are some actionable steps you can take that can change your future right now. This week, write down every source of income your household currently has. Then challenge yourself to identify one additional source that could realistically produce even $300 each month within the next 6 months. That single exercise begins turning your life into a portfolio instead of depending entirely on one paycheck. This month, calculate your annual spending on status purchases. Add together vehicle upgrades, impulse technology purchases, luxury subscriptions, and other expenses designed more to impress than to improve your life. Redirect at least half of that amount toward investments. You are replacing visible wealth with actual wealth. This month, list every debt you owe and divide it into 2 columns. One column contains debt attached to appreciating or income-producing assets. The other contains debt attached to depreciating purchases. Your goal is simple: Eliminate the second category as aggressively as possible while becoming far more intentional about the first. This quarter, automate your investing so money leaves your account before you have the chance to debate with yourself. Even if you begin with just $200 every month, consistency matters more than the starting amount. The system is more important than the number. Beginning immediately, stop measuring your financial progress against people. Measure it against your own balance sheet every 6 months instead. If your net worth is steadily rising, your consumer debt is shrinking, and your investments continue growing regardless of the news cycle, you are already playing a different game. Let's go back to Mark and David. Mark was never irresponsible. He simply followed the script society handed him. Earn more, spend more, upgrade more, borrow more. Look successful today and hope tomorrow somehow takes care of itself. Millions of intelligent people followed that exact script because it was everywhere around them. David wrote a different script. He learned carefully before acting. He diversified his income instead of his excuses. He spent quietly while investing loudly. He borrowed only when an asset had the potential to pay him back. Most importantly, he trusted ordinary monthly contributions to accomplish what extraordinary effort rarely could. That is why Generation X quietly won the money game. Not because they were financial geniuses, because they understood that knowledge compounds, income streams compound, disciplined spending compounds, and patient investing compounds. Over enough years, those small, almost invisible decisions become impossible to ignore. Money is rarely built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary months that nobody remembers until one day you wake up with something far more valuable than money itself. You have options, and options are what real wealth has been buying all along. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today. If you're genuinely getting something from these conversations, consider subscribing. I make videos like this every week. Until next time, take care of yourself and your future. I'm Brian.